Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Wohlfahrt, and in this video I want to talk about a tar tool. Tar is a command line tool that lets you combine multiple files into one single archive file. Yeah? This can be very handy if you want to move around multiple files at once, or if you want to move around whole directory trees, you want to store something to a different disk, then use the tar tool to combine, to store all these files into one single tar archive and then move around or handle this single tar archive file. Tar is an old tool, a very old tool and a very powerful tool, so it can be really complex to use all the bells and whistles this tool gives you. But if you stick with the basic operations you typically need, create new archives, extract files from archives, have a look into archives, then it is really simple to use. And let me show you how you do this. Let's start with sharing my screen. So here we are. And as a first step, let's download a prepared archive. I have prepared an archive. Let's download it via wget. Let's simply download this archive. You see an archive typically with an extension of .tar.gz. Then you know this is a gzip compressed tar archive. Or you can also see not compressed tar archives. Then you see a file name extension with .tar. As you know, file name extensions on a Linux system don't matter. What matters is the content of the file, but typically you see tar archives with the file name extension .tar, and if you have compressed tar archives, then you typically see .tar.gz for a gzip compressed tar archive, or sometimes you see the shorter extension with only one single dot, .tgz. There are other compression variants available than gzip, but let's talk about compression in a few minutes. Let's download two variants of the same archive. First, the not compressed variant, and second, the gzip compressed variant. Now I have downloaded into my current directory these two archives with the same content. The first not compressed, the second is compressed. Now we want to extract the files from this archive. Before we do this, let's have a look at the three simple operations we do with tar. Let's go to the whiteboard and let's have a look at the three simple actions we do. We have the tar command, and if we want to create a new archive, we use the -c command line switch. If we later on want to have a look into an archive, we use the -t command line switch. And if you want to extract files from an archive, we use the -x command line switch. -c for create. Easy to memorize, I think. C for create, X for extract, and the -t for have a look into. This shall be an I. Look into this archive. And if you call tar with -c for creating an archive, then you need to give the source. Which files do you want to store into the archive? The source can be a file, the source can be a directory, or you can even add multiple sources, multiple directories, multiple files at once. And if you call tar this way, tar-c, and then the sources you want to create or you want to store into the archive, Then tar will create an archive and print out the archive to its output data stream. Typically, you don't want to work with the output data stream, but you can do so. Yeah. Let's create a new archive. Let's create a new archive, tar-c. Let's create an archive and let's include list.txt into this archive. Let's include something into this archive. Let's include info.pdf into this archive perfectly. And I don't want to see the data stream directly within my terminal, so I redirect the data stream into a file. Yeah, I redirect the data stream into a file, archive one.tar. So, and now I have here my archive. Let's have a look into this file. Let's call cat to simply print out this archive to the command line. And what you see is that you have all the binary data from the PDF file, for instance, and so on. And let's have a better look into this with the head tool. Let's have a look at the first 10 lines of the output. Then you see it starts with the name of the file I have included. Let's go to the history. Yeah, I have included the list.txt file. This is the list.txt file. This is the content of the list.txt file. I know this. Yeah, this is the content of the file. And this here, these are the meta information of the file. There are the ownerships, there are the timestamps, there are the permissions set for this file. Yeah, for every file, there is the file name now within the archive. We have the metadata and we have the content. Yeah, everything is within the archive. And typically you want to work with archive files. And if you want to work with archive files, then you don't need to redirect the data stream into the archive file. There is a command line switch for this. Yeah, simply add a command line switch, the command line switch -f for file, yeah, followed by the name of the file, archive2.tar, for instance. Yeah. Now I have created a new archive file with the name archive2.tar. I have created this archive and I have added these 3 files into this archive. Yeah. If you are working at the Linux command line for quite some time, then you know that the order of parameters of the command line options, the order doesn't matter most of the time, but here it does. You need the files you want to store into the archive at the end of the command line. Yeah, so I cannot add command line options at the end of this list. You need the list of files you want to include at the end of the command line. Then you need the -f command line switch followed by a file name. Yeah, so you can combine if you want to. Surely you can combine -c and -f together to -cf if you want to, but the f needs to be followed by the name of the file. You cannot write -fc. Yeah. This would reference a file, an archive file with the name C. Yeah. So here the order is important if it comes to the f and the name of the file. Yeah. tar-cf and then archive.tar and then the list of files you want to include into this archive. Yeah. And this f-f command line switch works with every other option you have. Yeah. So if you want to create a file, you can add the -f command line switch with your file.tar. And the same goes for -t and -x. So we have created a new archive, archive2.tar, exactly the same content. Yeah. Now let's have a look into this archive. Let's do this with tar-tf, followed by the name of the file, the archive file, archive2.tar. Let's have a look, and voila, we have 3 files within this archive. Yeah. Back within the history, this was the command line for creating this archive. I have included list.txt, something, info.pdf. We see all the 3 files here with tar-tf. If you want to see a little bit more, if you want to see the metadata stored together with the names of the file, simply add a -v command line switch. -v for verbose, yeah, -v command line switch. And now you see with list.txt, we have the ownership, we have the permissions, we have the timestamp. With something, we have the timestamps, and so on. You see all the metadata stored within the file. So now that we know how to look into an archive, let's have a look into the downloaded archive here. tar-tf project x.tar, what's within this archive. And you see within this archive there is a directory called project X, and within this directory we have some files, we have a subdirectory with files again, and so on. You see there is a complete file or directory tree within this archive. Yeah. Now let's extract this archive, tar-xf for extracting. Now all the content, the whole content of the archive will be written into the current directory. I'm currently within my home directory, and after calling this extracting operation within my home directory, there will be a new directory called project X. Hopefully there isn't already a directory with this name, and I know there isn't already a directory with this name, so I can simply extract this without overwriting data. Yeah. So tar-xf project x.tar, and now let's have a look. I have just extracted this project X directory. We don't see the current time as a timestamp, yeah, just because project X, the directory, was included with its own timestamp into this archive. Yeah, so we have extracted the project X directory together with its timestamp. Yeah. Okay, and if you already have such a directory, or if you have an tar archive where no own directory is included, then it would be better to not extract the files into the current directory. Instead, create a new directory and then extract the tar archive into this directory. Yeah. So create a new directory, create mkdir tmp, and then extract this archive, xf archive2.tar, into this tmp directory. And you do this by simply adding, if you extract an uppercase C command line switch with a destination directory, -c and destination directory, and then all the files within the archive will be extracted or will be existent within the TMP or within the temporary directory after you have extracted them. Yeah. So let's have a look into the TMP directory now. Now I have within the TMP directory info, pdf, list.txt, and something. Yeah. The same works for extracting the whole directory tree from an archive. Yeah. tar-xf project x.tar. Now let's extract it dash uppercase C into the TMP directory too. Yeah. Now let's have a look into the TMP directory, and you see project X is present within the TMP directory with all the data that was extracted from this archive. Yeah. Okay, so this is the way the tar command works. You have the C for creating, you have the T for have a look into, you have the X for extract. You will typically work with a file and not with the data stream. Yeah. If you script later on, if you want to do something else with the tar archive on the fly, yeah, then you don't want to give the -F command line switch. Instead, you are working then with the data streams. But typically, you will add the -F command line switch if you create an archive, you add the files you want to store into this archive, and if you extract an archive, then you can add, and typically you want this, you can add the destination directory where the content shall be extracted into. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look, or let's talk about compression. We have a compressed archive here, and just because I see the .gz extension, I know this is compressed with the gzip command line tool or with the gzip algorithm. Yeah. Gzip is a tool that can compress a single file. So let's stick with our example archive2. Let's gzip this. Let's compress this with gzip. Gzip archive2.tar. Let's have a look. ls-l. You see, this is the compressed version of the archive2. Yeah? Gzip compresses in place. So the original file will be replaced with the compressed version, and the compressed version has a new file name, the original file name, with a .gz edit, yeah, appended. If you want to know if this file is really a gzip compressed data file, yeah, then use the file command for this. Yeah, a file you can, if you want to analyze the content of a file. You see here that archive2.tar.gz is gzip compressed data, and the original file name is archive2.tar. Yeah. If I have a look at archive1.tar, then I see this is a POSIX tar archive. And if we would rename the file, let's rename the file. Let's rename the file archive2.tar.gz to archive2.tar.xyz, for instance. Yeah. And now let's have a look at the output of file. For this, then file recognizes again that this is gzip compressed data within this file. Yeah. And if you notice, then we can simply unzip this. We can unzip such a file with gzip-d or the tool gunzip. The result is the same. Yeah, call gunzip or gzip-d for decompress to decompress such a file. And gunzip is a file or is a tool that wants a special file name extension, and the file name extension is gz. Yeah, so if we simply rename the file back to tar.gz, for instance, or tar tgz, for instance, yeah, then we can simply, just because gz are the two last characters, we can simply gunzip the file with gunzip, and voila, ls-l, we have the original file name back. Yeah. If you are working with archives, then you typically want to compress the data. Yeah. And to compress the data, then you don't need an external tool for this. for compression and decompression. You can use tar for this, or tar can do this for you on the fly if you add a special command line switch. If you add a special command line switch dash lowercase z, yeah, dash lowercase z, then tar works with compressed data. Typically you will have then the file name extension .gz, yeah. Then if you create an archive, then tar will compress the archive on the fly during creation. If you use -t, then tar has to extract the data with gunzip before interpreting the content, and the same for -x. Yeah, if you extract the data from an archive with -z, then tar will first decompress the data and then extract the files. Yeah. So if you add -z, then you can simply create or work with compressed archives. Let's go back in history, tar -c, yeah. And now let's create a compressed archive. Let's add a -z command line switch, and let's switch the file name, archive free.tar.gz, and now tar on its own has compressed the archive on the fly during creation. ls-l shows me that archive free.tar.gz is smaller than the original archive file, the not compressed archive file. Yeah. So if I want to have a look into this project tar.gz file, tar-t-zf project x.tar.gz, yeah, works perfectly, yeah, if we need to. Or we can even, on modern versions of the tar command, omit, if you extract the data, or have a look into this, we can omit a -z command line switch, just because tar recognizes, just like the file command does, tar recognizes this, that within the file this are gzip compressed data and will decompress them on the fly, yeah, without the need for a special command line switch. But if you have an older version of tar, then there could be now an error message that doesn't look like a tar archive, there is an error and so on. Yeah, then remember, we need a special command line switch for handling these compressed archives. There are different other command line tools for compression. Yeah? If you use gzip, yeah, then you need a -z command line switch. If you use bzip2, that gives you a better compression, then you use the -j command line switch. If you want to use the xz compression tool, for instance, then there is a command line switch -j for doing so. Yeah? And then there is a fourth tool, compress, and you can use compress with the -z command line switch here. Yeah. Okay. So we have these four tools for compression: gzip, bzip2, xz, and compress. And we have the command line switches you need for handling these types of archives. Typically today you see the bzip2 tool because it gives you a slightly better compression. Let's try this out. Let's create again the archive 4 with the bzip2 compression. The file name extension typically then is bz2. Yeah. Let's create this file. Let's have a look. ls-l, and you see, oh, Here in this example, it isn't a better compression. You see it is slightly larger than the gzip compressed archive, yeah, but typically it gives you a better compression, yeah, than the gzip archive. Okay, these are the basic operations with tar. If you want to do more with tar, then have a look into the manual page. The manual page shows you all the bells and whistles you can use with the tar command to extract only certain files, single files from an archive, to update an archive, yeah, to only include files with a newer timestamp into an archive. You can append files to an archive. You can take the list of files to include or to exclude from listed files and so on. Yeah, there are really many possibilities. So if you want to do everything that tar can do, or if you want to know everything tar can do, then have a look in the manual, into the manual page of tar. Yeah, have a look into the manual page of tar, and these are all the things you can do with tar. Yeah, just scrolling through the content here. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope you learned something new. If you are interested in more such tools like these that we talked about today, then have a look at the Shell Toolbox. The Shell Toolbox is a book I've written originally for my clients to give them an overview, a reference for all the tools they need for the daily work at the Linux command line. Today you can have access to this book too. Every tool within this book comes with example calls to illustrate the usage. Every tool comes with a short explanation about the tool. Yeah? So if you're interested in this book, go to shelltoolbox.com. My name is Robert Wohlfahrt. I really appreciate you taking the time watching this video. Hopefully we'll see you next time.